Apricots. It was because the water smelled like apricots, as much as anything, that she went down to the water. She rose in the darkness and dressed, and went down through the trees, trailing her fingers, touching plants she knew but whose names she'd never taken to mind. Seringa, someone once said, for the mock orange, whose leaves reminded her of silk. Silk bush. Rhododendron, leather-leaved and masculine. Huckleberry, small leaves stiff with fear. Drops of water from a midnight shower perched on each leaf, resting on the earth grass and broken under her bare feet walking. Mist against her face, female rain. Rain in sheets, hammering the river all afternoon, flattening the riffles, stretching the skin of surface water taut. Male rain. Male mergansers. Red feather, blue feather, yellow feather, brown. White feather, iridescent green. And female mergansers. Gray blue, gray blue, gray blue, gray blue, warrior feather, gray blue, 21 with her against the osprey. And a little maroon. Slept, ducks slept. Beneath them, salmon slept. Beneath them, the river undulated. Like sun-dried bed linen shook out in a French hotel room in the countryside. A weasel slipped onto the dark rock, quivering, nose in the air, neck rammed out stiff. She heard the crockery sound of water as it flowed around the rocks, and it made her sympathetic. The weasel shot to her, stopped short, saw the size of her against the stars, and ran. In the limbs of an ash tree, a gray owl was taking a weasel apart. In the east, the black was a deeper blue, the color of the days around her father's death, exactly, and got bluer, and the water, the river, became visible and black. She stretched her legs out, matching her calves, and arching her feet, the unfolding beginning there, and with her palms flat on the rock and her head lolling backward, she lifted her chest until her spine bent like a bow, shuddered, remembering the osprey, motionless in the shadows, watching the merganser and the ducklings huddled on the rock, knowing he'd explained all this later. As long as they stayed on the rock, covering it as they did, he would not stoop. And up in the house, he rolled over and did not sense that she was gone. One morning, in the gray light, its sound at first submerged in the river's movements, a dory came. A man in a hat, rowing, moving downriver as foreign as anything she could imagine. Another stood in the bow. He wore another hat and was dressed in neat, khaki clothing. She saw the gentle whip of his fly rod pointing into the slack water behind large rocks. After rainbow trout, he looked exactly the word she was after, silly. But he whipped the rod to set the fly here and there, time and again. The other man rowing, now the rattle of an oarlock, the boat moving toward her, the excessive neatness of their clothing, the creases, the grim expression clear on their sharp, razor-stropped faces. Rowing hard, she froze with the weight of lead in her belly, coming that fast across the water toward her. Never saw her. Whipping the shallows for fish. Went by 30 feet away. Silly. Her face quivered. silly. She put her hands, her palms cold from the rock, against her face. She imagined herself among salmon. Against her, opened her legs and sank down, swimming gently among salmon, lifting, sank down, until the light seemed much brighter, birds quieter, and she was wide-eyed, afraid of being seen, that the privacy of her morning had broken like an eggshell, and she came out on the bank. She thought of him, asleep up there in the house, of how the water, she had told him, and he had smiled, at this time in the morning smelled like apricots.